We're going to do something a little different today. Oh, God. And you want to know why? Because you've been lied to. And I can't have my viewers being lied to. That's the great thing about when you come to my channel. I'm not going to let anybody lie to you. That's why I said. That's why I'm telling you right now. What's going to happen here is we're going to go into the stratosphere. The show is going to go into the stratosphere. I'm here to tell you right now. Okay, I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of the modesty. We're careening toward 100,000 subscribers. Do you understand? And we're not stopping. We're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Do you understand? I know people with less subscribers to me, and people are shoveling them shit to pedal. Do you understand? Yes. Nintendo, listen, you get 100,000 subscribers, Nintendo comes out of the woodwork. Here you go. We'd like to give you arms for the Switch, and we want you to tell everybody how fantastic it is. And guess what? You're going to sit there and you're going to say, oh, yes, okay, Nintendo, yes, I'll do exactly that. Because if you don't, guess what? No more Nintendo. We don't do that around here. That's why my mission is to become so powerful and so undeniable that Nintendo's got to be like, oh boy, we really should send them something. And they're going to send me something, and I'm going to tell you the truth. If it's good, it's good. If it sucks, I'm going to say it fucking sucks. That's right. Don't try shoveling your horse shit over here. It's not happening. I learned from an early age. I learned from Bob Vila. Bob Vila wasn't taking any horse shit. That's right. He'd go up. The carpenters would be working on something, chiseling, hammering something in, cementing something. Bob Vila would come up to it. How's that? Is that sturdy? He'd start shaking it. If I was a craftsman, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? It's not even dry yet. Bob Vila was a gangster. How's this? Is it going to hold up? And sometimes he'd rip it off into his hand, and he'd be holding it. And he'd be like, yeah, you got to work on that. Yeah, that's right. The horse shit stops here. And I'm going to explain to you a little something. I'm going to give you a little background information on myself. When I was a young man, and you know something? It's so hard being a young man because you believe the bullshit. You're not old enough to see through the bullshit. You understand? And I don't know, ever since I was a young man, I've always been attracted to the idea of bodybuilding. You understand? Building a physique. You understand? Maybe because I was a physical wreck. You have to understand something. I was your typical, maybe not typical, high school kid. Sixth, Jesus Christ, I was like 6'2", 6'3", in 10th grade, and about 150 pounds if I was lucky. If I was lucky, yes. I would stand on the lunch line, and the black girls would come up and basically be like, man, get out my way, and just push me. And I'd go flying, and the books would go in the air. You have no idea. They were powerful women. You know, I look back at it now and I laugh. Or they'd rub Vaseline in my hair. This type of thing. I used to get picked on by black girls. Yeah. So, I mean, I got nothing against them now. I mean, for fuck's sake, I used to date them. Yeah. Dated a couple black girls. I mean, you know, great girls. Sometimes I think I was maybe exacting revenge sexually. But not really. I mean, who the fuck am I? Right? Anyhow. But I've been in long-term relationships with black women. Fantastic. Great stuff. A lot of fun. What are you going to do? All races. Spanish. Muslim. That was a great one. I went out with this Muslim girl. Her father hated me. He wanted me dead. He thought I was a white devil because I was white. I was white with blue eyes and incisors. That's right. And I think she liked me so much because her father hated me. It was one of these things. And it worked out in the bedroom, if you know what I'm talking about. Oh, geez, did it work out. What are we talking about here? Anyhow. So as a kid, I wanted to get in shape. I wanted to build my body. So what was the thing that you did? You ran out to B. Dalton. Or what was the other Yahoo bookstore we had? We had two bookstores you could go to. B. Dalton and Walden Books. Yes. This is before that other Yahoo bookstore. I don't know what it was called. The big one. Anyhow. You would get Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. Do you understand? There was nothing else. There was nothing else. And you did what Arnold Schwarzenegger said. That's right. I would sit there and I would read this. It was the Bible of bodybuilding. That's the bottom line. It was the Bible. You would read it, and there'd be guys like Franco Columbo, and my heroes, Tom Platz, Mike Mentzer, Casey Vator with his enormous forearms. That's all I wanted. I just wanted big forearms. I said, none of these muscles make any sense because they're covered with clothes. The only muscle that makes sense is the forearm. Nobody got that. So you go to the gym, there'd be nobody working forearms. They'd be working forearms, yes, off the bench, as many, this type of thing. You couldn't hold your arms up anymore. I remember I used to have a broomstick with a weight tied onto it and a rope, and I'd sit there in my room and I'd roll up this weight like this. Oh my God, I built up incredibly strong forearms. Anyhow, but all the greats were in there. Do you understand? Robbie Robinson, this type of thing, like the greats. And you said, well, I'm going to train like them. I'm going to train like them. And what was the training regimen? You ready for this? It was 25 to 30 sets per body part in a split, in a one-day split. You go in the morning and you go in the evening. This is what they were telling you to do. 6 days a week if you want to be a champion. I did that routine. Do you understand that I almost overtrained myself into death? I remember I worked at a bakery at the time. And I remember being so weak from this program. Oh, initially you put on muscle because, when you're 18 or 17, 18 years old, you could basically look at a barbell. You could trip over a barbell and I was like, oh, I put another inch on my biceps. Your hormones are raging. The testosterone is going through the roof. And I remember training like this, and I remember trying to pull the clutch on the mixing machine, and I could barely pull the clutch. I was so close to death, and I didn't even realize it, because I just figured I wasn't getting the results I want. I trained more. The whole thing was like train more, train more. We're talking about hours in the gym. Train more, train more. You lift more, lift heavier, lift more. And I was digging and digging and digging myself into this pit of overtraining. I became so weak, so clouded, so sick. I was like, why am I getting the flu every day of the week here? This doesn't make sense to me. Yes, so we were being fed a line of bullshit here. And I remember I went on a cross-country trip with a friend. And obviously there's no gymnasiums when you're sleeping in a tent. And I remember about a week after this vacation, I was like, whoa, I started to feel like incredible. You understand? Like almost like, I don't know, like indestructible. And then by the second week, I was like, oh my God. And my arms were like filling out. I'm like, what's going on here? Like my whole body was like coming to life. I was like, Jesus Christ. And do you think I put 2 and 2 together? No. I came back, and then the first thing I wanted to do is go back to the gym. And when I went back, it was like a month-long trip. When I came back, I was strong. I was lifting in the gym. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I dug myself right back into the same old hole. Because how could Arnold Schwarzenegger be wrong? How is that possible? It's not possible. There's a whole industry built up on bullshit. Do you understand? Everything. Every YouTuber you see out there that's jacked to the moon, okay? These people are not us. If you see a guy on YouTube, he's either pumped up on steroids or he has phenomenal genetics. I'm here to tell you right now. These are the people that rise to the top. When you got a body like that, you're like, yeah, make a YouTube channel. Everybody will follow me because they want to look like me. These are the genetic freaks or the people on steroids, guys. You haven't figured this out yet? It doesn't work for the average guy. The average guy has shithead genes. Okay, I'm here to tell you. Sometimes I think like I'm like the cross between a giraffe and an orangutan. Yeah, but an orangutan that's not strong. Oh my God, I go to the zoo sometimes and the giraffe comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, Pop," and I'm like, "No, can I borrow the keys to the car?" I'm like, "Get out of here, you freak." Anyhow. So it wasn't until and I knew, you know something, when I was so young and green, I'm going to explain to you something. My first time in the gym, I instinctively knew how to work out. You know, I had been reading Arnold's thing, and I really didn't know what was going on yet. But when I went to the gym, I could remember my first set, grabbing the heaviest weights that I could do, and doing this set till failure, because that's what made sense to me. I said to myself, well, I have the most energy now. This is the great thing about going into something blindly. Like, go play the guitar, right? Never take a guitar lesson. I got news. Don't take a lesson on an instrument. I play the drums. I never took a lesson in my life. And I think that's a great thing, because you develop your own style. You develop an instinctive style. I remember going into the gym, I grabbed the heaviest weights I could and did my first set until I burnt out. And I went to failure. And then I put them down. And then my next set, I picked up a little lighter weight. So I figured I could get to that same number. And then my third set, I did the same thing. It was like drop sets almost. Instinctively, right out of the gate. And then I would read the book more and I'd be like, oh, I'm doing that wrong. Was I really? Kind of not really. And I'll tell you why. It was a real eye-opener to me. When I came across this book right here. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I have about 5 coveted books in my life. You understand? 5 books that completely changed who I am today. And this is one of them. This is Mike Mentzer's Heavy Duty. Okay, good luck finding a copy of this. This is my original copy. This is one of the books that I absolutely covet. And this is the real deal, guys. I'm telling you right now, this is the real deal. If you're an average guy that wants to bodybuild, this is who you listen to, Mike Mentzer. I suggest you look up anything online about Mike Mentzer you can. And I don't know, when I read this book, it was like, aha, yes, I knew that. I'm reading, I'm like, I knew that. I'm like, yes, oh my God, it makes complete sense. Mike was an extremely intelligent man. I'll give you a little background information on Mike Mentzer. Mike Mentzer used that old style of training. And he was so frustrated because he was going to the gym 3 hours a day and he got to a plateau and he couldn't make any improvements on his physique. So he thought, what do I have to do? Do I have to increase it to 4 hours a day? And at that point, he was working in the Air Force like 12 hours a day to begin with and training 3 hours a day. And he said, I can't do 4 hours a day. And he almost gave up on bodybuilding until he went to a Mr. America contest and saw Casey Vator. Okay, now Casey Vator had been doing this style of heavy duty training, or what they call high intensity training now. And he got to talking to Casey, who was the youngest man, I want to say boy, the youngest boy to win Mr. America. And he talked to Casey Vator, and he found out that Casey Vator was only working out 3 times a week, and like half-hour sessions. And he was like, how is this possible? Like, what are you doing? Who are you training with? And Casey Vator says, I'm training with Arthur Jones.
Yes. You're gonna have to speak up. That's pure bullshit. If you want to be a competitive weightlifter, then you're going to have to practice in order to develop the skills required for competitive weightlifting. But I'll tell you something plain and simple. Doing so will do absolutely nothing for your strength. Not a damn thing. But it will eventually destroy some of your joints. You can count on it. Explosive training is simply criminal. It's stupid as hell. Ignorance we can deal with. Stupidity, well, that's genetic. You can't deal with it. Long before you were born, son, I was dumb enough to listen to some of the assholes out there that call themselves experts. As a consequence of which, I all but destroyed my skeleton before I realized what the hell I was doing to myself. Now, must all of us repeat everybody's mistakes?
Now, how do I go into this one? Now, one of my favorite bodybuilders was Casey Vator, because he was so dense. He was so dense. He was like, I don't know, his musculature was so dense. So Mike Mentzer contacted Arthur Jones, and he says he remembers he called him, he left a message,
Man.
and Arthur Jones called him back at 2 o'clock in the morning. And Mike Mentzer was like, got on the phone, and he was about to tell him, like, listen, can we talk later? And he said, then Arthur Jones just went into a tirade about bodybuilding and how you're supposed to train and how everybody is doing it wrong. And he said he woke up, he says his eyes went open like saucer dishes, and he spoke to Arthur Jones for the next, 2 hours. And he said he couldn't believe this was paradigm shift moment for him, and he went to train with Arthur Jones. Now, you have to understand something about Arthur Jones and Casey Vator working together. They did a very famous experiment. It was called the Colorado experiment. It was a month-long training session with Arthur Jones, where Casey Vator put on 63 pounds of muscle in a month. That's right. With what? 12 workout sessions. That's right. 3 a week for a month. He put on 63 pounds of muscle. The Colorado experiment. Look it up. All right, there were steroids involved. But do you understand this method of training? And I'll explain why it can be applied to the everyman. There were steroids involved, and Casey Vator might have been coming back from an injury when he started. So, yes, there was some muscle memory involved there, but still, those are the facts. And Casey Vator was a phenom mesomorph. That's right. I mean, he's the quintessential mesomorph. But anyway, Mike Mentzer went to train with Arthur Jones, and Arthur Jones was a genius. Okay, I believe Mike Mentzer was a genius. But Arthur Jones was a genius in the purest sense, where he read all his father's medical journals. I mean, we're talking about a guy born in the 1920s here. He read all of his father's medical journals by the age of 10, and read every book in his town library by the age of 15. Yeah, I mean, guys, they didn't have Netflix back then, okay? You had to do something. But Arthur Jones, being a genius and inventing the Nautilus equipment, Nautilus machines, yes, I got news for you right now, which eventually became hammer strength. Yes, Arthur Jones is responsible for hammer strength machines. You might be more familiar with those because Nautilus blew up back in the 60s and 70s. And I got news for you. Nautilus equipment today is worth a small fortune. Yes, because it is legitimate equipment. And Arthur Jones developed the Nautilus equipment, what he calls the thinking man's barbell. That's right. He explains how a barbell is lateral in nature and basically fights the forces of gravity. So if you do a standing curl, you're basically pushing at the bottom, you're pushing the weight forward, and then you're relying on momentum to bring it up. You're doing work about halfway through, and as the weight comes up, it's standing on joints and ligaments. So you're not working the muscle all the way through, and time under tension is variable. So he invented the Nautilus machine, so where you curl, the resistance is, how would you say, equal throughout the range of motion. He called it the thinking man's barbell. And he explains how a barbell is linear and the Nautilus machines were rotary. And the human physiology is based on rotary movements. The wrist rotates, the hand rotates on the wrist, the lower forearm hand rotate on the axis of the elbow, the arm rotates on the axis of the shoulder, this type of thing, the hip, the leg, the knees, everything rotary. So that's what the Nautilus equipment came out, and nobody wants to use machinery because they believe free weights are the way to build muscle mass, which is not true. We've been taught this by Arnold. We've been taught this by the Weeder boys, to stay with the basics, to stay with barbell training. And it just so happens that barbell training was such a leap forward, in the 1800s, such a leap forward in workout science, in the ability to build muscle, that it hasn't been questioned since then. So Arthur Jones was the first to really question it. And it took him years to develop the Nautilus machines. He was poor, dirt poor. He spent every dime he had into these Nautilus machines and finally figured out the cam system on the Nautilus machine. Hence the name Nautilus, because the cam on the machine looked like a Nautilus shell. Anyhow. He got to working with Arthur Jones, and Arthur Jones' philosophy was all based on medical and scientific fact, by the way. Now, I want you to understand why Arthur Jones is slighted. Because of his personality, perhaps?
There are three things of value: younger women, faster airplanes, and bigger crocodiles. Does it bother me that I sound like a male chauvinist? No. I am a male chauvinist. I think women are wonderful. I think every man should own several.
This is maybe an unfair question. Is there sex between you?
Is there sex between us? Is it true, as I've heard all over Hollywood, that the reason your wife divorced you is because you can no longer get it up? Is there sex between us? You're damn right. She's my wife. What the hell else would I have her for, you know? Well, I was once quoted, and accurately, as saying that a gun is like a tourniquet. You may never need one, but when you do, you need it very badly and very quickly.
Okay. How much, can you give us a hint as to how much the company is worth?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone once said that if you knew what you were worth, you're not worth very much. Well, I have been quoted as saying that I'm 64,000 miles to the right of Attila the Hun, but I think that's an understatement. I don't admire much else about the Arabs, but I do admire their attitude towards theft. Chop off the hand the first time and the head the second time.
Yes. He believed in, what was his expression? Younger women, faster airplanes, and bigger crocodiles. Okay? He was definitely a man cut from a different cloth. And I love him. To be honest with you, I love him. But he had very radical views. So even though he was extremely wealthy, a billionaire, even though that wasn't revealed by him, because he was an extremely sharp person, but his industry was $1 billion industry. That's right. The Nautilus equipment was extremely successful. So he was into younger women. I mean, what? This is how you know the man's a genius! Anyhow. But his training philosophy, and he was hired by the NFL, and he was hired by the NFL, but they actually thought he was too radical because he trained college football players. And he goes, why? And his basic reasoning was, why is a football player doing squats and doing bench presses? How does that apply to football? And he also suggested that they load every NFL coach into a 747 and drive him into the side of a mountain. I love this guy.
I know, and that's stupid as hell. 15 years ago, I said the best thing you could do for football would be to take the top 500 coaches in the country, put them in a 747 and fly it into a mountain.
Anyhow, Arthur Jones' training philosophy was you train as intensely as you can, as briefly as you can. He basically, what Mike Mentzer believed and Arthur Jones came up with was it's one set training. Okay? Probably 4 sets per session. If you're in the gym longer than a half an hour for the average person, for the steroid freak, if you're in the gym longer than an hour, you're in the gym too long. And for the average person, if you're in for more than 20 minutes to a half an hour, you're in too long. That's right. And he says, anybody that enjoys exercise, he says, what did he say? Anybody that enjoys exercise, chances are they aren't doing it properly. And he's true. It's very, very intense workout. It's basically you go in and you do 1 set to failure. That's right. And probably 4 sets of different exercises. Not focused on one exercise. 4 sets of different exercises. And that's it. You're out. And who had success with this? Well, Mike Mentzer. Basically, he said that your final set, your final rep is the most important rep in your workout. So you're doing barbell curls. And you do, his recommended set was a 6 to 10. Failure between 6 to 10 on 1 set. That's right. So when you get to that 8th or 9th set where you feel like you can't do anymore, it's basically you have to imagine in your head that your mother is stuck underneath a burning car. And that final rep is you trying to pull the car up off of her. and you use everything you have to lift that final rep. And that's what triggers your body's physiology that says, wait a second here. What is going on? We have to make sure that never happens again. We have to build that muscle. And then after that workout, he wants you out of the gym for a minimum of 4 days. And this is where things get really interesting, because the rest periods have to be extremely long. Okay. So you say, well, what did Mike Mentzer do? Well, Mike Mentzer was the first Mr. Universe in history in 1978 to score a perfect score in bodybuilding, which is a 300. The judges judged him a perfect score. He was the first Mr. Universe to get a perfect score. In 1979, he was the first Mr. Olympia to get a perfect score. That's right. And in 1979, the Olympia was split up into lightweight and heavyweight classes. And Mike Mentzer won the Olympia heavyweight in 1979, but lost the overall to Frank Zane, because Frank Zane was a Weeder boy. And in 1980, the most controversial Olympia of all time, where Arnold Schwarzenegger won after only training for, I believe he only trained for 6 months before he was training for Conan the Barbarian, and decided a week before the competition to jump into the Olympia, and robbed everybody on stage because he came in, basically, he was a mess. His legs were skinny. He was bloated. He had a lack of definition. The graininess he didn't have. I got news for you right now. I can't say that. But he came in and basically it was Arnold, Frank Zane, Arnold, Chris Dickerson, Frank Zane, and then Mike Mentzer came in 4th place with somebody else. He was tied for 4th place, and it was basically his to win. That's right. Frank Zane was so upset with the judgment, he went backstage and threw his trophy up against the locker room wall. So there you go. 1979 Olympia was never even broadcast on TV because it was so controversial. People booed. Yeah. So Mentzer got robbed again, and he basically dropped out of bodybuilding. He said, that's it. He says, he wasn't a Weeder boy. Do you understand? Arnold Schwarzenegger, Frank Zane, they were Weeder boys. And they're going to win the competition. That's how it was. That's how the industry was. Because guess what? Weeder had a weight set for sale. Weeder had supplements for sale. Mike Mentzer would talk against supplements. He didn't believe in supplements. And he didn't believe in the Arnold style of training. So right away, Mike Mentzer was the black sheep. He wasn't allowed into the industry. He worked with Arthur Jones. Arthur Jones was off his rocker. So they were blackballed. So Mike Mentzer had to do his own thing. He published his own book. Look. By Mike Mentzer. Published by Mike Mentzer. If you wanted a copy of this book, you had to go to Mike Mentzer. Distributed by Mike Mentzer. Yes, copyright by Mike Mentzer. All rights reserved. Published by Mike Mentzer. They wouldn't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole. You know why? Because he was espousing the truth. And you can't have the truth in the bodybuilding industry. So here we go. So you're saying to me, Bithead 1000, how does this affect me? Well, and how does it affect me in my training? Well, it does. It affects you radically in your training. And when I started reading this book, Mike Mentzer explained that no matter how big you build your physique, your central nervous system always operates the same. Your central nervous system is responsible for your recovery. And recovery is the most important thing in bodybuilding. Not the training. Anybody can do the Yahoo training. Any moron can go in the gym and lift up and down, lift up and down. It's the recovery that is so scientific. I'm going to explain to you. The central nervous system never grows. It never gets stronger. It stays the same. And your central nervous system is genetic. Just like you have black people and white people. And this is another reason why Mike Mentzer was controversial, because he would raise these topics. If you put a black person out in the sun, they can be out in the sun all day. If you put me out in the sun in about T-minus 5 seconds, I catch fire and start burning. That's right, because genetically we're different. We're programmed differently in our DNA. You understand there's differences between people. That's right. So some people have a central nervous system of, an Olympic athlete, and they can recover fast. I know this. You know people like this. My brother-in-law can go out drinking all night until 2 in the morning and then wake up at 5 in the morning and go straight to work like nothing ever happened. I'm in bed for 2 days with the hangover of a lifetime. The recovery system on me is very slow. So that's how it goes. This is like, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. So what happens is you go to the gym, and a great analogy he uses is you go to the gym, you work out, and you dig a hole. You dig a hole into your body's resources, a hole that your central nervous system has to fill. So over the course of the next day, few days, your body starts to fill in that hole until it fills the hole in completely, and then you are what they call replenished. In other words, you're back to where you were before. But then the body continues to build a little bit more over that hole, and that is the additional strength. That's right. Every time you work out, you are supposed to get stronger. This is called progressive resistance training. If you're going to the gym and every time you go, you're not lifting heavier or you're not doing more repetitions for the weight you did last time, you are doing something wrong, and it's that simple. So what we've done with Arnold's style of training is we go to the gym, we do the 20 sets. The average person with the average or something, most of the time below average recovery system, because let's face it, I mean, I've seen some of you people on the beach, and you don't exactly have Olympic genetics. So what happens is you do Arnold's training, and you dig the hole. You understand? And then you go back the next day. Oh, so your body, say you take a day off, right? Yeah, the body was able to recuperate like this. But then you went to the gym again. So this was your starting point now. And the hole gets deeper. So your body starts to recover again, but it can't even get to where the other hole left off, and then you go and you work out again, and the hole gets deeper. And you gradually get, sometimes you do this. You dig the hole, and your body fills it up until you're fully replenished. But you're just replenished to baseline strength you were before, and then you go and you work out again. And your body didn't even get to add on the additional strength. So you've plateaued. And the reason for plateauing is because you didn't give yourself sufficient amount of rest. Well, what is sufficient amount of rest? Well, if you're training intensely, the baseline for the average person is 4 days. That's right. If you're doing the high intensity training, it's 4 days. But guess what? There are people with central nervous systems that are what you would call genetic midgets of recovery. And Mike Mentzer learned this by training clients. That's right. After the Olympia and all this, he would train clients and he would train normal people. And this is where he really started to learn about the human physiology. Because he said he would train some people and they could go back to the gym 2 days later. And he said there was some people that he would train that needed to stay away from the gym for 2 weeks. Sometimes longer. 14 days or longer between workouts. And I said, Jesus Christ. And it wasn't uncommon for somebody to need 7 days between workouts. And now you say to yourself, well, Bithead 1000, how do you gauge this? You gauge this by writing down every lift you make and how much you lift. It's that simple. It's amazing to me when I go into the gym and I watch people work out, nobody's writing anything down. It's incredible. They're just going through the motions and looking in the mirror. You can only do that for so long. You have to get a hold of your central nervous system and understand if you're making progress or not. You have to start by doing the average things. And I suggest Mike Mentzer has a great video. I will put it in the link below. And start by what he says. Watch anything Mike Mentzer. Okay, so I go to the gym and I do 100 pounds on the bench press. I do it for 9 times. The next time you come back to the gym, you better be doing 100 pounds 12 times, or maybe 105 pounds 8 times. And you write that down, and you write that down, and you allow yourself the proper recovery. And if when you come back, you stay the same, then you either did not lift it's this simple. You either did not lift intensely enough, or you didn't allow your body enough time to recuperate. So you add additional rest days. Until the lift goes up and the numbers don't lie. And the numbers don't lie. And you get bigger and you get stronger. And it's that simple. It is that simple. Can you believe it? So yes, Casey Vator, Mike Mentzer. Mike Mentzer went on to train Dorian Yates with this style of training, and Dorian Yates went on to win 6 Mr. Olympias. That's right. I can remember reading in Flex magazine, Dorian Yates had a column, a page in there, and he would explain his workouts, and they were 1-set workouts. And I'd be like, what? I thought he was like the Yahoo of the book. You understand? I was so programmed by the I thought he was the oddball. I thought this guy's a nut job. What is this garbage? Okay, but we all know what Dorian Yates went on to do. That's right. And Arthur Jones learned from things like isometric training. That's right. Remember in the comic books, it was a Charles Atlas on the beach. He would push the skinny kid out of the way. And the comic book would be like, are you the skinny kid? You know, try isometric training. Mail us in this your UPC symbol or whatever they had on a comic book, and we'll send you the workout equipment. And you'd be like, oh, that's it? You send it in, and they send you a rope. And you're like, how, what? And it's basically a rope with a loop in it, and you step on the rope, and you pull, and you do static pulls, isometric static pulls. And how did they learn about this? Trying to help soldiers coming back from World War II. Isn't that how they were wondering why muscles atrophied. So the scientific study was, and I think, to be honest with you, I think they were doing it for space travel. I think they were thinking about space travel even back then in the 40s. You understand? And they knew about, muscles atrophying in space. I got news for you. Arthur Jones was right. He said a high school education in the 1930s is worth 2 PhDs today. And he's right. We tend to think people were stupid back then. But I got news for you. They were a lot smarter. That's right. A lot smarter. This is the crazy thing. It's funny, we live in a world we think we're so bright. I mean, with our technology and whatnot, I got news for you. You didn't invent the iPhone. You didn't. So you're not that bright. You're just a dope that uses it. Trust me, I'm in the same boat. I'm not too bright either. So anyway, they took a frog and they strapped its leg down to a table. because they wanted to measure how the muscle in the leg would wither away, how long it would take, and this, that, the other thing. And they noticed after like a week, the frog's leg had doubled in size. And they were like, what? What's going on here? And basically, the frog was straining so hard with everything it had to move its leg that the muscles grew enormously. These were survival lifts, static holds that the frog was doing. This was life or death. And this is how you have to look at high intensity training. These are life and death lifts. Okay? So when you do, so then this is how isometric training developed. This is how they were able to, if soldiers were immobilized in bed, they would make them do static holds in bed to maintain their muscle mass so they wouldn't just completely disintegrate into a fucking zombie. You understand? So this is old medical technologies here applied in modern times. You understand? It's basically isometrics with high intensity training. Very, very effective. I will tell you this right now. The only drawback to high intensity training, it's the hardest workout you'll ever do. That's number one. You think just because it's going to be 15, 20 minutes in a gym, it's the hardest workout you'll ever do. And then when you leave and you're in your recovery stage, the next 4, 5, 6, 7 days, you are going to be hungry like a motherfucker. That's right. This is how you know it works. This is how you know it works. And I got news for you. Whenever you do heavy lifts from the floor, or whenever you have to bend down to pick something up or lift something over your head, you get hungry, Jack. That's right. Oh, any of you young skinny kids out there want to get hungry? Pick something up off the floor or lift something up over your head. It does something to your physiology that says, bring me steak now. So it's very hard to manage diet when you're doing high intensity training because you just want to open up the cupboards and eat everything. It's like, oh, wow. What do we have? We have Ritz crackers, peanut butter, tuna fish, and I'll put a little maple syrup on there. You understand what I'm saying? So I discovered this high intensity training and it just fit. It fit perfectly. Do you understand? And I need the 5 to 6 days layoff. I need it. And I said to myself, I used to beat myself up. I said, what terrible genetics I have. It takes me 5, 6 days to recover. And then I started thinking about it and I'm like, what am I, a dummy? I only have to work out every 6 days a week. I have genetic superiority. People love to beat themselves up because they need enormous amounts of rest between working out. That's a fantastic thing. Have you looked at it that way? Have you looked at it that way? Oh, I don't have to go every other day. I could go every 6 days. I win. And then you can have a life. Do you understand? Outside the gym. The gym is an ancillary thing. It doesn't have to consume you. Oh, it's fantastic. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to come in here and talk to you about something that I feel might help you. And, you know, listen, I took a break from working out. I mean, I'm a mess right now. Yeah, I mean, you're probably looking at me like I'm going to take advice from this guy. But I've just started my training again. Yes, this type of thing. And I owe it all to Mike Mentzer. My ability to have the want to train comes from Mike Mentzer, Arthur Jones. So there you go. I thought that might help you out. Anyway, guys, do you realize you just tuned in to the greatest video game program in the history of human civilization? And you better believe that. With the 4K face! We'll see you next time. Guys, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have a slamming show on Patreon. That's right. I'm not here to promote it, but I'm here to promote it. because the show it's off the rails fantastic. I'm sorry, it is. It's just so much fun to do, okay? People write in, they want advices. We're here. We give advices. And they turn into Johnny Do-It-Yourself. You know these guys? He comes to me, we just closed on the house. I want to buy a power washer. Can you recommend a good power washer for me? I said, yeah, the one you rent from Home Depot. You fucking moron. It's like when you have that manager at McDonald's, she's like, we have to get the fries out on time. We have to do this. And guys, come on, guys. Guys, mayo first, then the tomato. Come on, guys. You gotta get it together. It's like, hey, no, bitch. We work at McDonald's, asshole. There's red ball hairs on a scrotum sack that is red. It looks like somebody hit my balls with a meat tenderizer. I'm like, are they ever gonna go flesh colored? I wish I had flesh colored balls. Do you want me to be honest with you? Do you understand? It's that simple. You email me down below and I answer your questions. That's all. Anything. What do you want to talk about? You got hemorrhoids? You want to stick a rat tail file up your ass because they hurt so bad? You talk to me. Okay? I'll tell you how to solve your problems. I've been around the block, guys. I'm not here to lie to you. I don't want to lie to you. I've been around the block. I'm going to give you real advices. You understand? This is not calling some fucking Yahoo radio show. Right? We're here to give you real advices because I care. I really do care about my viewers. I do. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you because I got news for you. I know when I'm hurting or when I got problems. Not fun. Not fun. There's a lot of problems out there. I got news for you. A lot of fucking problems. Everybody's got problems. But you come to me and I solve them. Just like that. It's just that simple. And you walk around, you're like, hey, listen. You get the weight off your shoulders, you understand? And then life becomes beautiful again. Okay, guys. Thank you to all the Patreons. I really appreciate the support. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the support. Thank you. I'm very grateful. We'll see you next time.